Good day, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be covering how to deal with a statistics question, and we're going to be specifically looking at the May 2024 question paper, looking at question 8 within that paper. Okay, let's just read through the instructions and then we will get back to what we actually need to physically do. So first and foremost, we need to retrieve the spreadsheet called Rugby in the folder called Computer Practice N4. And in my case, I've called my folder today. We will save our document as question 8. We need to insert a header where we're going to be keying in our examination number left aligned and our question number right aligned. We will make all the changes as indicated on the spreadsheet that appears on pages on page 18 in our question paper. Then we also need to do not insert row and column headings. This is indicated so that you can key in the data in the correct rows and columns. We will then be inserting some formulas where we need to calculate the totals. We need to calculate some percentage points, percentage penalties, the highest number of points, the lowest number of penalty points, calculate the average number of points, calculate the average number of penalty points, and then the last formula is to determine the number of countries, displaying that as integers. Then we will also need to change all our calculated answers to bold and insert all horizontal and vertical borders as indicated on the spreadsheet using thick borders. And instruction 8.9, we need to adjust all columns and rows so that the information is legible. Copy the formula to other cells as indicated in the spreadsheet. And we also need to insert a footer in uppercase where we're going to be keying in the following left aligned in the font Berlin Sans FB Demi 14 point and in italics. And the information we need to capture is Rugby World Cup Wiki Statistics. And last but not least, we will print the information, only the edited document in landscape orientation with row and column headings on one page, saving the spreadsheet and placing the printout in our examination folder. Okay, so let me just retrieve that information. I will just pause the video here and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've now retrieved the file called Rugby, and we can now go ahead and start looking at what our instructions are. And our first thing that I can recall is that we need to insert a header. We first need to save our document as question 8. So let's do that and just save our question. Go into File, Save As, saving it as question 8. And I'd like to put the year and the month of where the question comes from. So this is question 8 from May 2024. I will then save that. Okay, now the next instruction we've been given, let me just refer back to that, is we need to key in our examination number left aligned and the question number right aligned. Okay, so I like to go into the views at the bottom of Excel and I use my page layout view to find my headers. So left aligned, I need to put in my examination number in capital letters. And bearing in mind your examination number that you will use is actually your ID number. And on the right hand side, we're going to insert question 8. And now, because we are in the headers and footers view at the moment, we can as well do the footer, which is instruction 8.10. So I'm just going to go back to that. So the instruction for the footer says that we need to insert a footer in uppercase keying in the following left aligned in font Berlin Sands FB Demi 14 point and in italics. So let's do that. So I'm going down to my footer area in the document. Once I get to my footer, I'm going to insert the words RWC Wiki Statistics, and that we've got to format it. So I'm going to go back into my home menu up here, selecting my text, typing in the first three letters for Berlin Sands. Make sure that you select the correct one, because there are two Berlin Sands. There's Berlin Sands and there's Berlin Sands FB Demi. They want us to use the Berlin Sands Demi. That has got to be 14 point, and it's got to be in italics. Okay, so now we've done both our header and our footer, and then we can go back and see what the next instruction is. So click back into your spreadsheet and change your view back to your normal view. Okay, I'm just going to zoom the screen so you can see it quite bigger. Right. So our next instruction is going to be, okay, so we've done our header. We can make the changes as indicated on the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet is shown here on page. I'm just going to rotate my view. Okay, so as you can see here, let me just make that a bit smaller so you can see the whole spreadsheet. There we go. All right, so here we have to insert the information that's been given. Let's go back to our spreadsheet that we've got been given. So we have a Rugby World Cup. You'll see there's a blank, an open row after Rugby World Cup. There's an open row after the past 5 winners, and there's an open row after from 2023 and 2019. So let's insert those empty rows. So we'll right click on row 2, insert, similarly by row 4 and by row 6. Okay. And also remember that they asked us, we're going to be printing this in landscape orientation. So we're going to change our page layout, change our orientation to landscape, because you would have noticed there was a dotted line that was appearing in the screen. And at the moment, it's still appearing between columns H and G and H. So we just need to adjust that once we get to the column widths. Okay. So let's get cracking on this. So the first thing we need to do, we need to merge and center the headings in rows 1, 3, and 5 across columns A through H. Okay, so let's first merge and center them all across through A through H. Across my home menu, I'm going to go into my alignment grouping and go into the merge and center option. I'm just going to merge and center them now. I'll change the alignment of each one individually. So A through H, again in alignment grouping, merge and center. Alignment grouping, merge and center. Okay, so the Rugby World Cup one needed to be right aligned. So I can go into my alignment grouping, change that one to right aligned. Past 5 winners needed to be center aligned, and the from 2003 to 2019 needed to be left aligned. Okay, so now that we've inserted those headings, we can go ahead and actually change their sizes, because we also go back to the instruction here. It says that we need to change the font to Berlin Sands FB Demi 20 point and add a double underlining for the text. Okay, so let's do that. So we select those 3 headings. We're changing again the font to Berlin Sands FB Demi. So use your drop down there, Berlin Sands Demi, and change the size to 20. And we're going to have a double underlining on that. text. So once we've done that, we are now at the point where we can go back to our spreadsheet, and we need to insert the word statistics, which is going to be in uppercase, bold, italics, and we're going to be merging across rows 7 through 12. So what you need to do is in cell A7, we type in the word statistics, similar to as though it was part of the headings. But now we need to select cells A7 through A12. And those ones we are going to go into our alignment grouping, and we're going to merge and center those. Okay, once you have done that, the other instruction there is you need to rotate your text at the angle of counterclockwise, and then we need to center it both vertically and horizontally. So let's change our alignment on that, where we're going to change the orientation to angle counterclockwise. Then we need to center it horizontally and vertically. So that's what it should look like at the end of the day. Okay, right. Let's move along swiftly to the others. So now we need to do the column headings, where we need to wrap the headings, shade it gray, center it horizontally and vertically. So these ones here, we're going to be selecting those. And here we are going to change the alignment. You can see currently it is actually on wrap text. I'll take it off wrap text and put it back on wrap text for you. And then we need to make sure it's centered vertically and horizontally. Okay. And then we also need to change the shading to gray. So we click on the shading, the full color there, and we change that to gray. Okay. That doesn't apply to cell A7 to A12. Okay. So once you have done that, we can then capture the information, and I'll pause the video while I capture the information in cells E8 through F12, and I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So now I've captured the information in cells E8 through F12, and now I'm at the point where I can actually then do the other changes that are needed here. Okay, so for instance, the total needs to be bold and it needs to be right aligned. So we change the alignment there to right aligned. Okay, so now we can actually capture the formulas. So the formula A is going to be cells E13 through H13. So I'm going to select all those cells, although we don't have any values yet in columns G and H. I'm going to use my auto sum function. Which is in my editing group. So I'm going to go into the auto sum function and use the sum function there to insert that. Okay. So you will then notice that we now need to do formula B. Let's have a look at what formula B is in the question paper. Let's just change the orientation again. Okay, so formula B says that the percentage points are the number of points divided by the total number of points, and we need to display the answers as percentage with 1 decimal point. Okay, so it's going to be equals the number of points. So in this case, 4 is the first player on our list, Johnny Wilkinson. So we're going to use cell E8 divided by cell E13, and we're going to use our absolute cell referencing. So we're going to anchor that one, and we're going to use the function F4P to place the dollar signs in front of the E and in front of the 13. to make it an absolute cell reference. So in this case, Mr. Wilkinson had 48% of the number of points. And now we can also then, remember we need to display it as a percentage with one decimal. So we're going to go into our number grouping here and just increase the number of decimals to 1. And now we can actually copy that down using our autofill function to automatically then fill in for the other players. Okay, now similarly we can calculate the number of the percentage of penalties. Let's just have a look what that formula should be. Percentage of penalties is the number of penalty points divided by the total number of penalty points. And yet again, we need to display the answer as percentage with one decimal point. Okay, so we're going to go equals to the number of penalty points divided by the total penalty points. And yet again, we will use F4 to anchor it, to make it an absolute cell reference. And we increase the number of decimal points to 1. And we copy that down using our autofill function. Okay. So next, let's have a look at what the other formulas is. We need to calculate the highest number of points. And we're going to be putting that answer in cell E15. So the highest number of points, when we're using that one, we need to utilize in the AutoSum function, if we want to calculate the highest number, we use the max function. Okay, so we're only selecting the points for the players, and we'll hit enter. Similarly, now we're calculating the lowest number of penalty points, and now we're using the min function. So in my editing options, I'm going to use the min function for the number of penalty points just for the players, not including the total. Then we need to calculate the average number of points. So yet again, in my editing tools, use the average and the average number of points just for the players. Okay, we will correct the decimals when we're done with all the formulas. The next one we will do is the average for the number of penalty points. Okay, equals count A, open the bracket, and we are starting from cells C8 through C12. We close the bracket, and we come up with an answer of 5. Okay, so let's go back and just see what we do need to display those as. So formula D, E, F, G, and H are all shown as integers with no decimal points. So I need to go back in here and make sure that I'm going into my number grouping, selecting my number, putting it as a number, and setting it as 0 decimal points. Okay. And remember that all our calculated answers needed to be displayed as bold text. So all of these percentages, we need to make it as bold text. All these ones as well, putting them in as bold text. Okay, so now we're at the point where we can actually start adding our borders, because we've now already done all the formatting of the text. So we can add in the borders, and I like to add it around all my data first. And we have been asked to use a thick border, so I'm selecting all my data and putting in a thick outside border. Then I will go by each column, setting in my thick border. Okay, then I can also do it around my column headings, and I can do it around each total. As indicated there, each total has a thick border around it. And last but not least, around the total. So that takes care of all our borders that we needed to insert. So all we now need to do is adjust our column widths by dragging the columns and making it look similar to what is in the question paper. Normally your question paper might give you the different sizes, but in this instance they haven't given us the different sizes, so we can actually readjust those. And once you've got the text wrapped, you can actually double click to set it to the ideal column width. Okay, so similarly I wrap that, and I can just double click on there to wrap it correctly. Okay, so that will then make sure that our spreadsheet, as you can see, the dotted line appears on the outside of all my text. So finally, we're at the point where we can actually then print our spreadsheet, and we're going to go into our page layout option. We've already set it, the orientation to landscape, but we need to also add in the row and column headings. So under there where it says headings, we select print, and I can actually do a print preview to show you what the final product will look like. So I'm going to go File, Print, and there you can see we have our spreadsheet created. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. And good luck with preparations.